Today's video is sponsored by Regions Bank, member FDIC. Roll it.
Hey y'all, welcome back to a budget video.
Woo!
Where have those been? Oh my gosh.
Feeling good, like I should.
Wouldn't be a video if the dog didn't start scratching the door the second we start filming. Every time.
Get me out of here.
Every time it's like a tradition. Do y'all feel at home? You feel welcome now that the dog's scratching the door? Hold on.
Okay.
The last budget video we did, we updated you guys on where we stood with like our utilities and how our budget has changed in that area. But we said, as far as our personal budget and personal finances, we were going to come back to you with that one because we talked a lot about our utilities.
Kind of like that comeback sauce they put on fried chicken and stuff down here. Ooh, oh gosh, so good.
We have made some changes to our budget and we've had some questions from people of like, how are you budgeting for the activities that the kids are in? Because Brooks has started t-ball and Gaines is doing gymnastics. Are you eating out more?
Comeback
Have you
sauce.
started going off budget, or like what's going on? Our personal spending has changed a little bit.
Can I say that I feel like we're in a groove. We're in a groove. We're in a good groove.
I feel scared to even say that aloud, so pretend you didn't hear it.
We're in a good groove.
On the sense of a groove, when like here's the part where you're not in it and then you get in it and you want to be like here, I feel like we're like still kind of like and we're not quite in the middle because we still have some stuff to figure out. And for us, that has been a big part of moving, is like figuring out exactly, back before we moved, we knew exactly like where we were gonna go shop if we needed to spend less money, where we needed to eat out, where we needed to be, and who was spending what and how much it was gonna cost.
We're kind of doing a straddle over the crevasse right now.
That's what we're doing. First item of eating out, groceries. Y'all know food is our weakness. And when we've done our monthly budget comparisons in the past, we've been like, holy Lord, what were we spending? And my main goal since we moved has been to at least not spend $1,000 on eating out, because that's what our budget was in the past at when we got ourselves
Check out our last video. That's where those now cards come into a good beneficial play. It's also so hard because we're in a new place where there's new food, like seafood, and that
there is.
And you want to explore.
You do. You want to like feel connected to your new community. This is probably, I've said a few times, this will be at some point a whole different video. It's been a bit of a mental struggle. I think after the holidays passed, I personally know I have struggled mentally, like emotionally, just to adjusting in general. And an important part for like super important to us is maintaining our like mental health, but also staying on budget. There's no reason to completely go over budget because that's gonna actually tank your mental health. Making sure that you're getting out.
I will say, whenever we do go out to eat, when we're looking up a restaurant that we've never been before, you're always like, well, hang on, let me pull up the menu online and check the prices of it.
And I'm like, not going there, not going to that one.
Go somewhere else.
So while we've been aware of it and been allowing ourselves, we have increased our eating out budget a little bit. I think back at the old house during COVID, everything, it was what, $50?
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
We were like hardcore.
Maybe 25. There were months when we were super tight. While I do think that is important, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me on this because I know Dave Ramsey would probably disagree with me on this. As we've moved, as we've been adjusting, we have increased our budget because I do think that it's important to get out, socialize a little bit in a new area, taste some new foods, see some different parts of town that you don't live in. Typically, it's been $200, which we do not spend every time. That also includes when Brooks has a baseball game at 6:30 at night and we get some Chick-fil-A on the way home because we need to.
Yeah.
So that includes like fast food. That also includes going to a restaurant and having a nice dinner. It includes if we freaking ever have a date night. That'll be included in that too. So we have made sure that we're mindful. That's like the top. We have not spent that much every month on eating out. Like when we go to Mexican, I get an a la carte taco. After I've eaten all the free chips and salsa, I don't want all the rice and beans and everything else.
We used to get the kids like big old plates, one each, and then would take a whole plate home leftovers. And now we just get one and they split it typically. They're just, you know, little roundabout ways.
Little things here and there just to save money.
And speaking of staying on track, as y'all know, we've been working with Regions over the last several months. They have a feature on their website, an Insights tab, where you can go in and they give you a plethora of advice and articles. And when you have a question about what you need to do
Anything.
to budget, have a plan, paying yourself as a small business, investments in retirement.
I feel like you kind of just have to look at it yourself. I
Yeah.
feel like even me saying it all is not going to do it justice. The amount of information, free information that you can just go on their website and look at. A lot of it has been super helpful for us. In their insights section, there's a personal finance section, creating a financial plan, working on budgeting and saving, how to manage your credit. They also have these like calculator tools. It's been really
freaking
cool.
crazy. How do they do that?
Where you can put in like how much you want to save, how many months you want to save it in, and then it'll help you calculate like how much you need to put aside every month while taking into account the percentage you're earning back in your savings account and all kinds of, there's tons of calculators.
We did it a minute ago and I was like, oh, seeing the numbers and knowing that we could have had that much more money for a down payment on a new house.
Yeah, as we're still paying off debt, but it's really cool to be able to do that. And that was one question that people have asked us about, like, once you pay off your debt, are you gonna continue budgeting and like being frugal and all of that? Yes, we absolutely are, because we want to save for a down payment on a house before we purchase a house. There's a section that has little articles that talk about different things. Like there's one, tips for paying off debt. Like
tips for budgeting with prepaid cards.
There's even one that was super helpful for us as doing what we do for our job, that was written by a mom blogger that talked about how she discussed money with her kids and how she was able to talk to them about how she doesn't just like go out and buy all these things because she just wants to buy stuff. A lot of times she buys things to review for her website, and then how that helps her earn money and yada yada. So that's specific to our situation, but there's even specific things that are related to everybody. They have retirement, home, different life stages.
I was about to say retirement, and when under the personal finances, I think I'm getting older or something, but investments, again, thinking back about like our past and the debt that we've accumulated and how much better off we could be if, like, I think this rental house that we're in right now is an investment for our landlords.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how cool would that be to have freaking rental property and you're just having a steady income every month? And so I want to click on that.
You obviously have to manage it. But that's like one of the things on here. What are different types of investments and how can you do them? So I would encourage you, if you never have before, or if you literally have any finance questions, I could go on all day on like what all's in there, because they have podcasts, they have webinars, like little 10-minute courses that you can take. There's all kinds of stuff. Get your money in order, take care of your budget, take care of your savings, and know how to do it the best way possible.
One-stop shop in the link below.
Check out the link below, and we'll put a few different links to like get you to the right place. Another question that somebody was asking was, how are we budgeting for the kids' activities? Basically, that kind of goes along with the okay, hold on, I lost my complete train of thought. Like, I totally lost it when the picture changed on that Google thing. Completely forgot what I was talking about.
It was like yesterday, butterfly flew
at certain times of the month. I have no brain concentration. It does not stay anywhere. I've seen Brooks doing T-ball, Gaines is doing gymnastics again. There's lots of stuff. As they're getting back into like school, they have a spring fling coming up. We had to order a yearbook. So basically, in the same way that we've budgeted for anything else, as I write out my whole budget, which I think I did a whole video on this that was really boring for you to edit, and he wasn't even in it, because if you're like super interested in how I actually create our budget, it's a whole process. Basically breaking it down and looking at what sections, if we're gonna put more towards kids' activities, what money is that gonna take away from? We need to lower our eating out budget? Do we need to lower our clothing budget or whatever else? And then making sure that we have a certain like category set aside for any of their expenses. Big expenses like signing up for T-ball is obviously an upfront expense. So that kind of goes into like our sinking fund for kids. And then there's also like a monthly amount that I put aside.
Aside from the budgeting aspect of it all, it being in a new place and getting in that groove, I think it's really important to get them in those extracurricular activities. They come home exhausted, they find new friends, they find friends that they go to school with that are playing, Brooks is playing T-ball with. We're
able to interact with other parents. Usually our typical like amount I put aside is $100, which if it doesn't get spent, then it gets rolled over into the next month. At first, when I started, I think I did 50. We just kept going over, and me as the person, I was about to say we, but you don't ever look at it all until I just tell you what the budget is. As I look at it, and keep kicking myself in the foot for like, God, we keep going over this. Why do we keep going over? And then I'll look and I'm like, well, like she genuinely needed new shoes and he genuinely needed a new baseball glove, or somebody lost something and they needed another one. I had to be realistic about the amount. Set it in a way that doesn't allow us to just overspend flippantly, but to make sure that, especially as we're moving in a new place, that our kids have what they need and have some things that they enjoy too, obviously, like sports and that type of thing.
It's kind of like with the eating out, we're still aware of the things that we're buy, like the helmet and the hat when we went to go shop for Brooks. We're consciously aware of like, okay, this bat is the same size and the same thing and it's $20 cheaper. It'll do the job. It'll get the job done. This bag was $10 cheaper. It'll get the job done. So.
And he's only 4. Like it doesn't need to be a professional level everything.
I even thought about looking on Facebook Market that day. I think while we were driving to try to maybe there's somebody that, because I'm like, we could resell this in a year, you know. And
well, in my mom's groups, there are people that were like reselling used gloves or baseball bats and stuff that their kids have outgrown. And so that's a great option too. I never actually ran across any that were like the right size and whatever that he needed. All of that proves an important point in budgeting and like trying to get your finances in order. That has been a little bit of a struggle for me, because not just of myself personally, but sharing the information with the world. I think you get a lot of feedback of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're spending that much on this, which is like it's just a typical reaction people are gonna have. But you also just have to be realistic with yourself and give yourself grace and understanding that like it's not gonna be perfect from when you start. Even moving, like there's just different things here. There's different expenses and things cost different amounts. As COVID's ending and we're getting back involved in stuff, it's hard to know exactly what it's gonna be. So you set a limit and you just kind of observe it for a couple of months and see, am I consistently going over this and why? Okay, we're gonna have to go back to only spending $50 on restaurants because I'd really prefer that my kid get to do T-ball, you know? And like, we're totally willing to do that. I don't think there's one size fits all for budgeting. I know some people disagree with that, but you have to do what works best for you.
We're making it work. Like I said, we're straddling that crevasse. Hopefully one day we'll just sink right down into it. And then we'll use the insights and look about retirement.
I know, I was about to say by then we'll be like 80. What do you mean? We're never gonna retire. Y'all, can you imagine in like 30 years, YouTube's just gonna be full of old people sitting around talking about old people stuff. Isn't that crazy?
Can you imagine that there's already like people younger than us that have retired because of how smart and wise they were with their budgeting? Like that's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Oh, totally.
But
that's where we're going. That's where we're headed, and that's why I'm like, I keep debating in my head. We do get this question a lot. Just a little side note of like, how long are you gonna stay in the rental house? Are you gonna stay there until you can afford a house or whatever?
I kind of like
it. Just like, literally, can we just rent forever? Because I don't want to deal with buying a house again. I just don't. And I'm like, we're just gonna stay here forever or whatever. You know, basically I love how the budget mom, when she did her whole journey of like saving up until she could pay complete cash for her house.
Oh my gosh, that would be like, absolutely amazing.
Obviously people say you're wasting money renting, but you can also be doing yourself a favor and not overspending on a house, you know? It's an ongoing discussion and decision.
The ultimate goal is to own your own house, so you can like expand the deck a little bit if you wanted to, or you know, just that.
I mean, if you live in a rental house long enough, we'll just tell him like, hey, we'll help you expand that deck out there.
Lease to own, work for food.
I mean, you helped put up the fence. We got a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
Tell them, hey, can we have this house forever? We'll just we'll do whatever you want.
And the more I do, we knock off a little bit each month.
Yeah.
Until we get down to
I'll
zero.
lay some concrete back down there if we don't have to pay rent for a couple months.
There's so much to think about as we are going through all this, and I'm just glad to be back in the groove mentally. And I think and like you said, if you want to look at it this way or this way, we're kind of like right here. I think
vasectomies cost a lot of money.
We're on the right track. Not as much as a new baby.
True that.
So that does it for today's video. Y'all be sure to check the links below. Thanks again to Regions Bank, member FDIC, for sponsoring today's video. Y'all don't forget to be confident and kind. And we will see you in the next one.